Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. I'm your host, Joe Fox. Today I'm very excited. We have a very special guest for you today, and we're very lucky to have this gentleman and this company as one of our customers here at Growave. So I think there's going to be a couple of really interesting points for the audience here today. I'm not going to give too much away because there's a very, very cool story behind this company and Mark's background. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Marc Schulze of Neuland, one of our customers out of Germany. Mark, how are you doing? And welcome to the show.
Hi, Joe. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm doing fine. I'm also a little bit curious and also maybe a little bit nervous to speak to you today because it's my first international podcast, I must say, also in English. It's not my mother tongue, so there might be some typical German pronunciations and probably my dialect or my whatever sounds harsh, or maybe not harsh, but typical German English. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think it will be a great conversation, hopefully. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, Mark, your English is perfect. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. And Mark, I'd love to dive in a little bit. You've got a fascinating background, I think, in terms of everything that you've done in your career to date. But specifically today, I really would love to dive into Newland. Being a customer of Growwaves, I think it's a really good way to tell that story. But second to that, I think what you guys are doing is incredibly unique. I love the fact that you're very focused on sustainability. I love the fact that you're, manufactured and based in Germany and very focused on that side of things. But also, I think for the audience, the way the products that you have are very relevant to our audience. I think it's really important now more than ever with a lot of people working remotely and doing offsites and all of those sorts of things for their, important meetings. And this time of year, there's always those meetings. But I really would love to talk about Newland and the products and how you help drive better conversations and outcomes in the workplace.
Perfect. No, happy to talk about it. Yeah, maybe I can just give a short introduction to the company and then maybe a very quick
Yes.
one to myself. So
Yeah.
Neuland is a company that is already 60 years old. We started 60 years ago, and we are somehow, yeah, the hidden champion, I would say, in communication tools. And what we are doing, we're actually producing, besides this typical marker that probably everybody has seen who
Yes.
had a workshop, right? That is our unique product.
Yeah.
We are also doing flip charts, pinboards, whiteboards, tools for moderator trainers and people who are actually even on C-level, C-suite, who are actually facilitating, presenting every day in front of teams. And this is what makes us unique. And the really important, let me say, what is really important about Neuland, we have been sustainable, and we didn't even talk about sustainability. We just did it. Like over the
Yeah.
last 10, 15 years, everybody was talking about sustainability, ESG regulations, and all this kind of stuff. We have been the first company in the world who had these kind of refillable markers, and we didn't really make a big game about it or a big fuss about it. We
Yes.
just did it because
Yes.
we felt it was necessary. We felt it was the right thing to do. And as we are doing everything and produce everything here in Germany, this made in Germany is a promise, as well as something that is or has been something that has been valued all over the world for a long period of time. I think the German economy right now is in big discussions. At the end of the day, we are a small global player. We have customers all over the world. We are selling all over the world, and for sure, most of our business is done in the German-speaking region of Europe. But we try to grow. We had a partner in the US who unfortunately closed down some 10 years ago. So if somebody is interested, we are looking for partners and resellers in the US who are willing and who are interested in investing into these kind of tools. Yeah, we see a big trend back to work. Yeah, this new way of working. I
Yes.
think at the end of the day, with this whole COVID pandemic situation, people went digital. They work from home. But especially in Europe, we see a trend that people and CEOs actually ask teams to come back to the office at least 2-3 days per week. And I've seen also, I think, some announcement from Amazon, Apple, whatever, they want the people to come back. At the end of the day, I think communication, and this is what Neuland is all about. We are communication, right? We are classical communication. We are really like face-to-face facilitation in teams, in big groups. I think it all started like 20, 25 years ago as World Coffees. We had like big sessions with several hundred people working on that facilitation method. We have built up this whole flip chart communication with partners. Actually, that was built up here at Neuland. So a lot of these standards which people are using today has been developed together with Neuland as one of the players in the market, right? We are small compared to companies like Heading or whatever, but at the end of the day, our products are seen as the products, right? We are the original, and I think that is really something that is worth to tell it. And at the end, the company was never strong in speaking about what makes it unique, what is really, let me say, the story behind it, what is about this
Yes.
history, this made in Germany, the sustainability, the quality especially. This is something where we need to be a little bit louder. We've never been very a loud company. We just did our job. We did good, let me say, we delivered good quality. The people trusted us. The community of coaches, trainers, everybody is loving our products. But we've never been in the B2C market so far. Yeah, we want to expand into this region. But at the end of the day, we've never done it before. So we did our job. We delivered good quality. If you go to any hotel in the German-speaking Europe, you will probably find our product there. They last for decades, which is a good thing and the hand and bad thing. Yeah, I would
Yes,
love
yes,
to sell a little
absolutely.
bit more. But at the end of the day, sometimes customers send us products which are 20 years old, and we are just replacing screws and specific things or the
Wow.
surfaces of the product. This is really product that are made to last. And even some coaches, they tell me they have 20, 30-year-old markers, which they
Wow.
still use, refill. And at the end of the day, you can replace every single component of the marker, right? You can refill the top here, you can refill here with the at the end. You can replace everything. So at the end of the day, we are really reducing the waste. The people love this. But we've never told the story. And this is
I
something which I'm starting now to
yes.
tell the world how good we are and what we are all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. And I mean, there's so many good points you brought up there. And there's a couple that I kind of want to dive into because I think it's super relevant, for the e-commerce side of things and the e-commerce journey and storytelling and everything like that. And obviously, you know, I know how good the products are. You know how good the products are. The customers that are very loyal and have had these products, for up to 20 years. 30 years even know how good the products are, but I'd love to know, Mark, like how are you translating that in a digital environment and moving over to Shopify and focusing on those sorts of things from an e-commerce perspective? Have you found it a really good way to be able to kind of present this product to more markets and to more people, or are you finding you get a lot of loyal customers? How does that typically look?
No, I think, let me say, we have been very early to e-commerce because our, let me say, sales strategy in the past was really just direct business. So let me say,
Yeah.
before the whole digitalization happened, we had catalogs which we were sending out to customers and they were ordering via fax, via whatever initial emails. But we had our
Yep.
first online shop already in 1996. So really,
Wow.
really early.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
we did several technologies, and then I think 3 years ago we actually shifted to Shopify, and then we actually started also talking about, let me say, the loyalty program. Then Growave came on board, and we really see that the average order value, for example, since we are working with Growave, has been increasingly positive. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we've seen positive impact, and we've seen that our loyal customers are actually the most important source of our income in a way, right? Because
Yes.
they are coming
Yep.
back. If I'm speaking to agencies, for example, because we are now shifting our agency because we want to do something new, a little bit more innovative, whatever, and they ask me about what is the conversion rate of the website, I said our conversion rate is so high because we just have fans coming to the website. And
Yes.
if I
Yeah.
tell them our conversion rate, they hardly believe it. But like the traffic, to be honest, is it's not huge. But the people are
Yes.
buying because they love the products, right? So this is what it's all about. We are live from our loyal customers, and that's why we have that loyalty program, and that's why we have Growave helping us with it. This is something that really works totally well. So it's something that made us stabilize our sales, grow our sales, especially after the COVID phase. Our sales dropped almost by 60%. This is really, let me say,
Wow.
it was really, yeah, you can imagine, right? You have tools which are used in groups, which are used face to face. Then COVID hit, and like all of a sudden the business more or less stopped, right? All our
Yes.
hotels, all these kind of conference centers, and all the offices were closed down. Nobody needed these kind of tools, and it was really a very critical phase for the company as well. And now we recovered. We are growing again, right? Even so, the economy in Germany is weak. We are coming back. We are growing, which is very positive. And as said, these kind of tools and Shopify helped us. And we are making around 50% of our total sales via Shopify, via the shop. We still have
Nice.
some catalog customers or digital catalog customers. We still have, let me say, typical whatever ministry department official
Yes.
departments like the mayor of the city, whatever, they are ordering stuff on a classical way because they are not allowed to use credit cards, which are
Yeah.
somehow
Yeah.
needed sometimes,
Yeah.
right? So it's sometimes in Germany the bureaucratic things are still very old school. That's why we still
Yes.
have customers coming from whatever, from the fire workers, educational center, whatever they need this classical order coming in via fax or via email, right? So it's, or even sometimes via phone. So it's we still need this. What is really making us unique? We still have a customer service team where people really know the product, which are in the company
Awesome.
for 20, 30 years. So if a customer is calling us, we can really reply and explain everything. And this is, I think, something when I joined Neuland, it is really that makes the company so unique. We have people here working here for 30, 40 years, right? They started their career here, they stayed with the company, and they are like real experts. And at the end of the day, the funny thing is, even so, we have so many long-term employees. We are a super innovative company. We are coming up with new products every year. We are really coming up with really cool product innovations, which are sometimes coming from the market, from our coaches and trainers, right? So at the end of the day, we're working very closely. We are listening to what those guys need and want. And yeah, it's impressive. So once you are here, please come by. You will be impressed. It's
Yeah.
really
No.
it's really nice to see. Yeah.
Mark, I love this. I mean, my obviously I'm, heavily involved in the technology space and e-commerce space, but nothing makes me happier than hearing businesses that are having these transformational journeys and really embracing technology and innovation. And I love to hear, my family in Australia, my mum in particular has only ever worked at two companies in her whole life. And so she's always been the most long-standing employee, and I really love to hear stories like that because I think it's really, really cool. And also the fact that, you were able to keep that moving forward through COVID, survive COVID, like overcome those challenges, work with the team to keep pushing forward. I absolutely love these stories. And these are the things that make me excited to do the podcast, to be honest. I just love to hear these really cool stories. And I think, it's amazing to me. You touched on a couple of points there about the B2B side of things and some of the bureaucracy that still exists and having to, some people having to use fax and email for orders and things still. And I'd be very curious because I would love to do a part two conversation of this, in the future. I would love to hear, how Shopify is helping you with some more of that B2B side of things, because I know that they're so heavily invested in innovating in that space. And, obviously we can't speed up how quickly government departments move. Um, but it's interesting just to see that evolution of behavior as well. I think it's fascinating. So, um, awesome work, Mark. And I mean, telling this story is fantastic. I love to hear these stories. Mark, on that note, with Newland, like you touched on innovation. We know that there's this big resurgence happening with, people doing hybrid models of go back to work. I'm seeing on the tech side of things, even if a lot of people may be working from home, they're doing a lot more offsites and in-person kind of facilitatory meetings and using products like yours and, wanting to do more with coaches and advisors and all of those sorts of things. To the audience who are listening today, we have a lot of C-suite, at tech companies or leaders in tech companies. What do you think? Obviously with Newland, there's a variety of products, but what do you think is a good starting point? If you're a tech startup and you want to do one of these, facilitatory meetings and you don't know where to start, what products would you recommend, from Newland that could get that initial journey started?
I think it really doesn't depend if it's a startup or any kind of business in the world, right? At the end of the
Yep.
day, if you have people who are managing teams, people who are presenting to teams, people who educate people, you need to be able to have these kind of, let me say, combination out of these digital tools, which everybody is using, right? But
Yep.
having also the ability to facilitate in front of maybe with a classical flip chart, right? To be able to really easily explain and draw little paintings and little explanations to people, because you have different people in the team. You have young people, this Gen Z, which are, let me say, super digital native, but at the end of the day, they sometimes need very easy explanations. And you can really, if you are able to facilitate with some of our markers, with some of our flip charts, whatever, with all the tools that we are developing and which we are, let me say, offering, you will be able to really speed up communications, speed up decision making, let me say, really get people on board, onboard them, find compromises, really, let me say, documentation. What is really fascinating as a startup, and we actually did this exercise ourselves, we created a new strategy picture for Neuland 2030, right? We had let me say, somebody, let's say, graphic facilitator who actually took our strategy and painted a picture for it. And at the end, I would recommend to use these kind of strategy pictures as a change management tool, because at the end of the day, what we will do, we will put that picture with our vision for Neuland 2030 in all our production sites, as well as in the administration office, whatever. So every employee is walking by and looking at the picture of what we are going to do in the next 5 years. And with this graphical element, with pictures, yeah, sometimes in Germany you have a
Yes.
saying, a
Yep.
picture says more than 1,000 words. Yeah.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
you look at
Yeah.
that picture, you understand where we want to, what I as a CEO expect from our people, what kind of partners we are looking for, what kind of customers we want, what kind of level of customer satisfaction or customer service we are planning. These things are captured on one picture. And the people you're standing there, you're looking at it and you can really feel it. And these things are painted with our products, they are painted with our markers, they are painted on our flip charts. And you need to have people who are doing this live recording of meetings. This is really giving the whole group, whoever attends this kind of meeting, will remember the process. And I think looking at artificial intelligence and all the processes which are shortened and optimized and
Mm.
whatever, um,
Yep.
the artificial intelligence actually just you put in what you want and you get a result. What our tools are used in the process of coming from A to B, right? At the end, you need to explain people why A leads to result of B. You need to have
Yes.
A1, AB, A2, A3. You need to explain these little steps in between. And if you don't have the people on board and the people don't commit, and the people don't feel that they are embraced and that they are heard and that all their, let me say, critics or maybe their meanings, their opinions are somehow reflected and they are honored, however you want to call it. Maybe it's the wrong English word for it. But at the end of the day, you need to embrace the group. And especially in startups where
Yep.
you have a high engagement rate and the people are anyways motivated, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's even easier. Yeah, but even there,
Yep.
you need to have the group commitment. And if you are talking about established companies, it's more difficult. Looking at my background, yeah, I've started in a company which has more than 100,000 employees. I was just a
Yes.
number,
Yeah.
right? I never wanted to
Yes.
be there. Then I started in sales. I was in different roles. but it was very established kind of companies. And to get this change management done, yeah, you need to be able to facilitate in groups. You need to combine, have a hybrid kind of working model, not just digital tools, but classical face-to-face, off sites where people really learn. The people, even the new generation, they are very keen to learn. And when I was at
Yes.
Merck, which is like a global player in different kind of areas, they have like 70,000 employees. I was responsible for hiring talents in our internal consulting group, right? And looking at these talents and seeing how good they are and looking at their CVs. Yeah, I was always
Yes. Yep.
impressed at their CVs because they were at super reputational universities like Cambridge or whatever, like Harvard. Yeah. And I
Yes.
looking
Yep.
at my CV, I was always like, oh my God, yeah, I would not hire me.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
and
the
then,
same.
but
I'm the same. I'm guilty of that too.
yeah. So like, and I was like, my God, what a impressive kind of CV. But if they are onboarding, they've never worked in a real environment. They've never worked for a company
Mm,
which is changing, where you have decisions which are probably impacting specific business groups, business units, where they close down, sell off business units. At the end of the day, it's a ongoing change, and you need to make people aware that they will feel being part of it. Yeah, you need to tell the story right, and therefore our tools are actually perfect. And you need to, yeah, at the end of the day, you need to manage humans. Yeah, even if we have
yes.
artificial
Yep.
intelligence, we still work with humans. We still
Yes.
love to talk. We look into the eye. We actually, let me say, we even fight with each other in
Yes.
meetings,
Yep.
right? And you have
Yep.
critics there, you have negative people there, you have people there who are super motivated, you have people who are totally not motivated. But using these tools, which we have built for over 6 years now, is helping any kind of manager, C-level people, CEOs of huge companies, really getting the message to those people and trying to, let me say, have them on board and get the organization the right way. And I think this is what we are all about. It's really about communication for and with people and between people. And that's what we are standing for. And
I
it
love
might
that.
sound a little bit boring, yeah, that we are actually doing flip charts and whiteboards and whatever, but these tools are actually part of every single communication in a lot of companies all over the world. And from my personal perspective, every single office, every single law firm, every single physician, every single dentist, every single engineer, every single plumber who has a team needs to have
Yes.
these products because they need to explain whatever updates on laws. They need to explain specific mechanics. And being able to facilitate in front of these tools is helping people to understand problems and solve problems. And this is what we're all about, I would say.
Absolutely, Mark. And I think to that point, you know, working through these kind of workshop facilitatory kind of settings and doing that together as a collective overcomes any boundary that could be existing between any different teams, any different team members, overcoming hesitations for people to, because there are some people of all different generations who may not necessarily feel comfortable speaking up about certain things. But I think to your point, it's like if you're all kind of like almost problem solving together and doing this exercise together and coming together and understanding what from point A to point B looks like. Everyone has been a part of figuring that process out together. And I think that's incredibly powerful what you guys do and the fact that you're able to facilitate that. And I love the fact that, you're working to continually innovate and bring out new products based upon what is working and what you're hearing from the facilitators, and it's perfect. I mean, you've got the perfect business in my books. I love it. You've got the heritage, you've got the sustainability down pat, the amazing culture and team that have been around for such a long time, that patriotic, made in Germany side of things. It's amazing. So Mark, thank you so much, like, for sharing this journey and sharing this story with us, and thank you again for being a customer of Growwaves. I've really, really, really happy to hear that we're a product that's really helping you on your journey and helping you facilitate growth in e-commerce. So I absolutely love to hear that. And that conversion rate, you'll have to tell me what that is offline, because I'd be very, very curious to hear what that is. Over the years, I mean, I've seen some websites that you think would have really good conversion rates that have some of the worst conversion rates ever. And then, on the flip side, I've had some sites, where you're just like, wow, I can't believe that. But it's really cool to hear that you've got so many loyal customers, and that when a customer does become a customer of Neuland, they're, a loyal long-term customer
No,
because of the
and this
quality
is
and the experience.
where you are helping us and actually really helped us a lot. And we already had like a discussion about really intensifying our let me say partnership, right? Really
Yes.
going and
Yeah.
growing further. So I think there are a lot of ideas which we are going to realize. And I will tell you the conversion rate after our podcast.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. Mark, look, I could chat about this forever because it's such an interesting topic and you have such an interesting business that you're leading and growing, and I love to hear these stories. But we try to keep these within 30 minutes. So I do have a question that I love to ask because, we have lots of founders, CEOs, we have partnerships people on here, we have super tech focused people, customers, brands, sustainability experts, everything. But I do think one thing that's, relevant to all of us is travel. And so I love to just sort of ask the one question. I'd be very curious as to what it is from your perspective. But what is the one thing that you cannot travel without? And you can't say a person.
No, let me say, from a personal point of view, it's really just openness and curiosity. And I honestly,
I
I
love
was
that.
traveling to a lot of exotic places. I've been, let me say, in South America. I've been in Australia. I've been to Far East Asia. But what I
Yep.
also like is like, for example, Eastern Europe. It's a great place to visit, but you need to be open. You need to be open to talk to people. You need to be able to connect. You need to go into a bar, pub, whatever, drink a beer, and then at the end start chatting with people, locals, which are then actually giving you the hidden treasures of the
Yes.
city or the place you're traveling to. So at the end, it's not a tool. I would say without my mobile, I would not be able to travel,
Yeah.
right? But
Yep.
like, let me say, just from a pure personal point of view, I think it's about being open and being curious about what's really happening in the spot you're traveling to, because this is
I
giving
love
you
that.
total new perspectives.
I love that. And no one said that before. So that's a really, really good one. I love that. And I
Okay, cool.
couldn't agree more. I think that in my experience, I've been very lucky to travel in the technology space and all of those sorts of things for work over the years. And I think I've kind of always tried to adapt that mindset, because the travel I've always enjoyed the most, whether it's, Scandinavia, Europe, Southeast Asia, et cetera, has always been the things that I didn't find on Google. It's always just been these little kind of random adventures that have popped up along the way. So I couldn't agree more,
Exactly.
Mark. That's a
Yeah, no,
really,
no,
really,
definitely,
really good one.
definitely.
Really good one. Well, Mark, thank you so much, for coming on. Thank you so much for being a loyal customer of Growwaves, and really, really excited to continue to watch the Neuland journey and all the growth and see the 2030 vision come to life. I think that's a really, really cool thing. And audience, please, I really encourage you to check out the show note links. Go check out Neuland. Go check out these products. I know for a fact, all of my tech friends and colleagues have been talking about how to connect more about when you're doing offsites and all of these sorts of things. And Neuland have these products that can facilitate that. And to Mark's points earlier, bring everyone along on the journey and be aligned on the vision and have input into those future growth plans. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Mark, thank you so much for coming on board. And I look forward to doing a part two of this and talking more about how things are evolving along the journey on B2B e-commerce and how things are going with the ramped up loyalty program, and also hearing about how you're actioning this 2030 vision.
Perfect. Thank you very much for having me. I hope uh, the people enjoyed it, and I'm very happy to speak to you again. It was a
Thank you
big
so
pleasure for
much,
me.
Mark. Really appreciate it. Thanks, audience, for tuning in to another episode. This was a really, really cool one. I love it when Growwave customers come on board and come on the show and we can talk about these things. And I love hearing nothing more about businesses that have been around for, 50, 60 plus years and are really evolving into the e-commerce journey. So I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Be sure to check out the show notes and you can get all the links that Mark and I spoke about. And I'll see you again on the next episode of Retain, Grow, Thrive. I'm your host, Joe Fox, president at Growave, and I'll see you around.